This is WPTV, William Patterson Television.
Back to the desk. The men's and women's basketball seasons at WP are nearing their close. Here to break down what's going on at the Rec is Daniel Karp, Andrew Ballistreri, Tyler Cooper, and Bijan Pulley. You know, guys, over our winter break, the men's Pioneers won the centenary tournament, beating Penn State, Abington, and McDaniel College. Bijan, take us through this one.
All right, let's get into these tournament stats. For the tournament, the Pioneers scored 141 points compared to Penn State, Abington, McDaniel with 130. Pioneers shot 48.2% from the field compared to Penn State and McDaniel's 42.7. The Pioneers shot 69.2% from the line compared to PSA and McDaniel's 53.6%. And Pioneers scored 40 points off turnovers compared to 27 for Penn State, Abington, and McDaniel.
Yeah, I mean, impressive numbers there, but Karp, moving over to you, what do you think was the reason that they ended up getting the win here?
MJ Moncrief's versatility in Game 1. He played Game 2, didn't get a lot of minutes, but in Game 1 he was amazing with 12 points, 2 for 3 from 3, and 8 rebounds. He's been great all year. He's 6'4". We saw him in that Brooklyn College game. He came in and he set a spark in that team. He's great at the big man. He gets a bunch of rebounds. He could shoot from 3. He could shoot from anywhere around the court, and he's just a great guy to have in your team, and that really led to that win because in that first game they only won by 2 points, and not for MJ Moncrief, but also with 3 steals too. With 4 fouls, but he gets into a little foul trouble sometimes, but he's just a great guy to have on that team. Really provided a spark to have them win that Penn State game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, MJ Moncrief, I remember when he made his debut, you know, I think Bally and I were on the call for that one. Everybody was going crazy. He had a great game. Coop, moving over to you, what was the reason the Pioneers ended up winning the centenary tournament?
Yeah, the key reason why they won this tournament, because in both games, they made the free throws. In the first game, the Pioneers outscored the Penn State Abington in free throw percentage, 75-50. And in the second game against University of McDaniel, they went 9 for 10 at the free throw line. So free throws was a really big key for them.
Yeah,
That's
you know,
why they got the win.
It's something we've kind of seen them struggle with a little bit over the years, but it's good to see them get the win here, centenary tournament. Free throws being a big factor in that. Moving over to you, Andrew, what do you think was the reason they won?
It's got to be the second half defense in both of these games. I mean, you look at, Penn State Abington, they outscored them 41-31 in the second half, and they held them to really bad shooting numbers in general. And, that's a game where they got dominated on the glass in the first half, but they came out in the second half, completely turned the tide on them. And then you go over to the championship game against McDaniel. They outscored them 38-27 in the second half, and they held them to under 40% from the field. And while also doing that, they forced 13 turnovers, and William Patterson just had 5 in that second half.
Yeah, I mean, defense wins championships, is what
Absolutely.
they say. They win the centenary tournament because of defense. Bijan, what do you think the reason was that they win?
I got to go with their defense against shots from deep. Against Penn State Abington, they held them to 3 of 19 from deep. Then against McDaniel, they held them to 3 of 23 from deep, which combines to 6 of 42 from deep,
really good
which
numbers.
Equals to 14%. When you're defending the 3-point line like that, it makes your opponent's job hard to score in transition or in the half court, clogs the floor. It makes your defensive job way easier.
Absolutely, but they won the centenary tournament, but overall, record-wise, it hasn't been the most ideal season for the men's team, right? But a few Pioneers have had some outstanding single-game performances. Daniel Karp, starting with you, whose performance do you think was the best?
I want to talk about Sean Summers in this game at NJAC. We're going to take a look at his stats right here. He had 36 minutes, 30 points, a field goal percentage of 73. For a guard like that, that's crazy, and a free throw percentage of 80%. I mean, Sean Summers has been your best scorer for the last 2 years. And I know I'm not a big basketball guy myself, as you guys all know, but obviously I know that scoring is probably the most important part of your game, especially at this. Thanks. Especially in this position, D3 basketball, he made 30 of 70 points. And, the Pioneers are very much in this game at the time. Unfortunately, they ended up coming up short. But if you're putting up 30 points, especially in this level of D3 basketball, I mean, that's great. And I feel like you got to recognize the single highest scored game of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he had an outstanding game, a really good season. But Tyler Cooper, moving over to you, whose performance do you think stood out the most?
Yeah, let's talk about the junior guard, Naftali Valentin. The game against Penn College, Valentin tied his career best performance and had 19 points on that evening and shot 77 for 16 from the floor, and he also made 5 3-pointers in that game.
Yeah, I mean, again, another guy who had a really good season, kind of stepped up to be that third option in that starting lineup, was really, really good, especially down the stretch. Bally, moving over to you, standout performance.
And, you had mentioned MJ Moncrief's debut game against Brooklyn College, and that's the exact game I'm going to pick. It was his first game in a Pioneer uniform, and this guy went off. He had 20 points, shot to 9 for 12 from the field, which is amazing. Grabbed 8 rebounds and 5 steals in this game. It was a phenomenal performance for him, a great way to kick off the season. And it reminded me, a couple years ago, I don't remember if any of you guys remember this one, probably none of you, maybe Marc does, but back in the day, Brian Monahan, when he first put on that Pioneer uniform, his first game as a Pioneer, he drained like 4 or 5 corner threes in their first game, and the place was electric. It's just something about graduate students that come on over and transfer to Willie P.
Right, yeah, they just produce magic on
They
the
do.
court. Bijan, close us out for this one. What performance do you think stood out the most?
I gotta go with David Martinez's performance against West Con on November 11th. In that game, he finished with 22 points, making 6 shots from deep on 11 attempts, which are both a season high for the team. In my opinion, this is the best single game performance because David Martinez's 6 made shots from deep accounted for the 11 makes for the entire team in that game. And he was the only one to make multiple shots from deep that game besides Sean Summers, who made 3 out of his 6 attempts from deep. When you get shooting like that, a guy making 6 threes on that high of a volume, that's huge boost for your offense.
100%. But we'll move on to the women's team now. Wednesday night, the Pioneers won an overtime thriller beating Montclair State University. Cooper, take us through this one.
Yeah, let's take a look at this one. The Pioneers the field goal percentage was 29.2% to MSU's 37.9%, 17.6 3-point percentage to 39.1, 70.3% free throws, 46.7 for MSU, 9 assists for the Pioneers, and 15 for MSU. And it was a happy final. They got the win 67-60 in an overtime thriller.
Yeah, got some revenge there for the Montclair State games that Karp and I were on the call for earlier. Got to go to Montclair for those. That was fun. But starting with you, Coop, we'll go back to you. What do you think was the main factor for them to win this one?
Yeah, the main factor for the Lady Pioneers winning this game was points off of turnovers. The Lady Pioneers had 18 points off turnovers to MSU's 8, and the Pioneers were able to capitalize on MSU's mistakes. The Pioneers took advantage and turned defense into offense.
Yeah, 100%. You saw the free throw percentage.
Yeah.
That was a really big standout. Karp, moving over to you.
I'm going to go with second chance points for the Pioneers right here, as we saw the 29.2 field goal percentage to Montclair, a lot more. But if you're not making shots, you got to cash in those second chance points. And, they had 14 points, MSU 7, and also 18 offensive rebounds with Patty Walsh. We talk about her all year, has been great. And she was good at making those second chance points, too. You got to cash in those second chances.
Absolutely. Bijan, moving over to you. What do you think got WP the win in overtime?
I gotta go with consistently getting to the free throw line. In this game, the Pioneers shot 37 attempts from the line compared to Montclair State's 15 attempts, which is over double. And the Pioneers made 26 out of their 37 attempts, equaling to the 70% we saw on the screen. But specifically in the overtime, they got to the line 15 times compared to Montclair State's 8, and the Pioneers made 10 out of their 15 free throw attempts, which gave them a huge boost because their offense in overtime was really struggling.
Yeah, you could see that for sure on the stats there. But Bally, closes out for this one. What do you think was the catalyst for them to win that game?
It's got to be the great overall defense that the Pioneers played. And listen, we didn't shoot great in this game, but neither did Montclair, And, something that told the story a lot was Pioneers had 14 steals and a block in this game, and they held MSU to a very quiet second half. They only hit 3 threes in the second half. They forced 20 overall turnovers for the Red Hawks. And like I said, nobody shot well in this one. There was only 2 players that had a 50% from the field. Everybody else was below.
Yeah, look, but what matters is you got the win.
Absolutely.
As sloppy as it may have looked on the stat sheet, you got the win, and that's what matters. That's really what everybody's going to be looking at the end of the day. But, from a positive thing to another positive thing, senior Brianna Smith put her 1,000th collegiate point against Rutgers Camden in a 77-71 win. Bally, we've got a little comparison here from her first 2 years to her last 2 so far. Why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, let's take a look at Brianna Smith's stats so far at William Patterson. If we take a look on the left-hand side, this 20 to 2022, she had played about 28 minutes, averaging about 11 points a game, shooting about 35% from the field and 72% from the free throw line. This year, as you can see, she's turned the switch on. In 33 minutes, she's averaging over 16 points a game, just about 40% from the field goal percent, and over 76% from the line. So she's been an absolute killer this season. And she's just been a killer overall in her entire career at William Patterson. She made the All-NJAC second team last year, as well as won a Player of the Week last year. I see her doing something similar this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just been an incredible career for her so far. I mean, she's only got a couple of games left, but looking forward to seeing how she does here. But with the Pioneer basketball season nearing its close, the NBA is at the peak of its season. We'll lob it up to the NBA next on Sports Desk.